Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently we are now connected to the world and the Deputy Mayor has joined us. I can't see if you're frozen or not, Deputy Mayor. Can you wave if you're there? Oh, there we go. So there we go. There she, okay. Yay, jazz hands. That's great. So with jazz hands and at 6:09 p.m., we'll call this meeting to order. And I will be chairing the committee of the whole meeting as the Deputy Mayor has to join us by Zoom or is choosing to join us by Zoom. And before we get going, as tomorrow is Remembrance Day and we won't be meeting, I will ask everyone to please rise and we'll take a moment of silence. To honor our fallen, we will remember them. And I'll begin with a motion moved by Councillor Rowley and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc that the November 10th, 2020 Committee of the Whole Budget Meeting agenda be amended to defer the capital budget to the next scheduled Committee of the Whole Budget Meeting, November 17th, 2020. And my understanding is this is entirely because we're waiting for some numbers to come in from the engineering and design on the 3 streets we wanted to add. And it's tough to provide us with some options in terms of financing without knowing what the full numbers are. So is there any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Members of council, I'll ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. For the record, if any information is required or brought up about the Hilton Cemetery, which is owned and operated by Trinity St. Andrews United Church, I will be declaring a conflict of interest on that, as I am on the board of Trinity St. Andrews United Church. And I have to put that in writing, don't I? Thank you. And we have, I understand we have 2 delegations this evening. Only one is listed, but we do have 2. Our first is Eunice Kirkpatrick from the YMCA Northumberland. And I know I saw Eunice. There you are. Come on up and join us. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good to hear. So good evening, Mayor Ostrander and members of council and staff. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Brighton YMCA and our journey over the months. Through programs. As we kicked off our 220 capital campaign in March, all our operations 2 weeks later, and we're laying off 208 staff. 2019 was our best year ever for growth in the serving our communities. Our overall revenue was just under 7 million, offset with similar expenses, leaving a contribution of 8,500 after capital expenses of 575,000. So next slide, please. Oh, thank you. Oh, got it here. Okay. Just pointing. Yep. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, I want to provide an overview of the Brighton operation, and as you can see, there's some familiar faces there. We had a visit from our mayor when we just relaunched our YMCA. So membership status pre-COVID-19 was 517 on roll. March 15th, our entire Northumberland operation closed and all our Brighton staff were furloughed. The monthly membership payments deactivated and were put on hold. We monitored the situation throughout our closure, which was the 6-month closure, and the reactivation date was planned for September 8th. So as we were looking at the reactivation, some of the guidelines that helped get us to that were the guidelines set out by the HKPR District Health Unit. The other guiding documents were YMCA documents that are used throughout YMCA Canada, and that included the public health and risk mitigation, marketing communications, facility management and procurement, human resource readiness, and financial viability. Once we had really understood what these guidelines were, we had a YMCA checklist that really helped us look at what we needed to enforce as we came to the reactivation through the reactivation plan. One of the things that we did actually do was we called all the members to reevaluate the return rate because we weren't sure if we're going to be sustainable or not here in Brighton. So calls were placed to every one of our members. And we determined from that exercise about 54% was going to be the recall, with a high of 62% during the next 9 months. So one of the biggest concerns when we reopened the Brighton Y was just because of the size of the facility, were we going to meet the demands and the social distancing criteria? So you can see some pictures here where we've spread out the machines. We had to rejig a program room. We took some equipment out, but we did have a visit from the health representative from the health unit and was very pleased with the layout. So that's just a few pictures there. And so the membership analysis, as we've kind of moved forward, as I mentioned, we had 517 members pre-COVID. And as of today, actually the numbers have gone up because we're looking at 293 there for a projection at the beginning of the month. And we're now sitting at 332. In the month of September, we did open and made our deadline for September 8th. We've had 975 visits in September. And in October, it went up to 1,395 visits. So where we are right now, about 332 members from the 515, we really need to be about the 375 for a break-even situation. And anything higher than that does allow for reinvestment in our programs and equipment at the site. We still have a high population of senior members at the facility, and currently that's looking at 39%, with adults at 34% and young adults and youth at 27%. So we have, I pulled together the 9-month forecast. We decided just to do to the end of June because there's a number of federal programs that we are going to be looking into that go up until the end of June of next year. So the budget from July to December of next year is going to look quite different. So, but before I actually go into reviewing the forecast, I do want to thank the Mayor and Council for the support with the rent abatement over the last several months and through until December. This has really been helpful to get us back on our feet. I would say, as I'm sure the whole world can attest to, the last few months have been very challenging, and we really truly appreciate the commitment to ensure we remain sustainable as we continue to serve the needs of the communities around us. The other real positive was the change room renovation that occurred during closure, which was good timing and has really been well received by our members and the community. And it really supports the whole health aspect around the COVID as well. So thank you for that investment in your community. So with the budget, some of the assumptions we have made in there that we are very sure of is the United Way grant revenue. We did apply for a grant. It was a Reactivation Communities grant, and we've allocated some of that funding there. We haven't included the SUS, which is the wage subsidy program, because the criteria is going to be quite different from January to June, but it does follow through, and it's really based on your revenue and where you are with your revenues over the next 6 months. We also haven't included the new rent assistance program, which is now the acronym is SIRS. Again, the one that was out through the government in the last 6 months, municipalities couldn't apply for it, but moving forward, we have heard that non-for-profits can. So we will be looking into what can we get to support the rent costs moving forward. We have reduced operational hours. Currently, they're about 57% of pre-COVID hours, but they are meeting the needs of our members, and we're gradually changing those hours. For example, we open at 6:30 right now. We're going to move it to 6 in the next week or so because we know we can gain some more members through that small adjustment. We've included occupancy costs or bank and financing, and also accounting and marketing. We haven't accounted for any capital expenditure because that's not, it's really not feasible over the next 9 months. So I think I did include in the package some testimonials from members, and I'll leave you to read them on your own. But I think what this really reflects, we have been gathering them over the last month or so, but it really reflects what the Brighton YMCA is to the community and the continual need for a place where people can meet, exercise and socialize and improve their overall mental health, especially with the pressures and adversities we've faced over the last several months. I do also want to provide a couple of updates as well. We did our board recruitment over this last year, and Spencer Selly, who's a Brighton resident, is on our board, and he's on for the next 3 years. And he's very engaged in the Brighton YMCA, but he also does, he and his family use the Coburg facility also. Paul Vandergraaf, who's the police chief of Coburg, he's a Brighton resident, and his term will be finishing next year. So we're well represented at this point on our board. A couple other things, Operation Red Nose, which many of you might have used or come to know over the last few years. And we're unable to run it this year because of obviously health restrictions. But there will be a campaign that we'll be promoting through our media and website, just again cautioning people to be sensible about drinking and driving. But in its place, we were able to obtain the lottery license for Catch the Ace. So that's our new fundraiser, and hopefully it will replenish some of the funds that we haven't been able to drive over the last 8 months. One other piece is we're going to be hosting a drive-through, I want to call it a drive-by, but I think it's really a drive-through food drive at the Brighton Y on Saturday, November 28th. So we'll be promoting that shortly on our website, and we'd like to see the community get behind that and get involved. And again, I do thank you for this opportunity tonight. It's been difficult not seeing people face to face, as I'm sure you know, over the last several months, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Eunice. And I think probably before I turn it over to council, many of us may be going to be asking or questioning about the task force that we've been talking about for
Yep.
a number of years now. And no doubt it was COVIDed like everything else.
It was, yeah.
But I'm wondering what the thoughts are as we move forward and start planning for a
Yeah.
post-pandemic environment.
Well, I think it's timely at this point. We're 2 years into the 5-year lease. Post, or I guess pre-COVID, Bob and I had met, Bob Castleman, 2 or 3 times to talk about what does this look like? You know, what is the long-term vision for the Brighton Y in the community? At that point in time, we were looking at increasing space. Currently, we're not based on our numbers, but talks had been discussion around what is the next 5 to 10 years look like for recreation and programs and services in the community. So it has stalled because of COVID, but I think it's timely to look at, I think really until we get to what does that vision look like, we want that committee to be action oriented and strategic, and we want to give them a job to do if it's going to be representatives of the community. So there's a few things we need to sort of work through until we get to that point and give the community, direction and some strategy. I will also mention we embarked on a new strategic plan just pre-COVID, and we did a number of open forums throughout the county. We did host one in Brighton, and of course we were halfway through it and then everything stalled. So we have to finish our strategic plan. It may look quite different now post-COVID versus pre, but we got a tremendous amount of great feedback. Brighton was very active in that discussion. And that will be collated and certainly shared, but which can be part of, I think, the discussions moving forward with the task group.
Any concept on a timeline for that task force, when it might begin?
I think I have to get some direction from Mr. Castleman on that. We had left it, that we're going to have further discussions.
Very well. Thank you. I'll open the floor for questions or of clarification from members of council. Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, Eunice, again.
Yeah.
You said right now you have 332 members?
Yes. Yeah.
And what did you say about the 375? Did you say that you could meet budget with 375?
Yeah, that would be, if I looked at the number crunching without any further capital investment, 375 would be your break even with the current costs. And that's with the rent we had in our reforecast. We're looking at full rent starting January again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to follow up for now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I know other years you've got the Brian Todd scholarship, can't think, the fund.
Yeah, the fund. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how much you got last year, and are you anticipating that you might be honored with it again this year?
We did apply last year. We didn't receive anything.
Nothing last year?
Nothing, no. And every year we will apply, but last year we didn't. We were unsuccessful.
Further to the same, so any monies you receive from the Brian Todd Fund, does that all go into Brighton, or is that shared with Coburg?
That would be allocated to Brighton.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
That would show in our Brighton fundraising line. Yeah, just like we have with the United Way, we do a portion of any of the grants because of the assistance we provide to individuals and families in Brighton. We always portion a piece, whether we're applying for like a Northumberland grant, we always allocate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Bateman.
2 questions, if I could, unless somebody has one in between. Just for Eunice, did you approach Coburg and Crammy Council, and Northumberland County for funding as well at any time? Because I would think, I don't know if you've ever approached Coburg and Crammy, I'll let you answer that. They would utilize our facility.
Yeah.
Maybe depending on where they live, and some might go the other direction.
We didn't, because we don't pay rent at any of these other locations. So what we have done is applied for any grants. We've been, any grants that have come. There was the United Way one, for example. There was one for Durham. There was a Durham Children's Services grant that we apply for that looks at the Mothers of Newborn program, which is offered throughout Northumberland County. So again, anybody who's residing in Brighton and wants to utilize that program, they can do so from the Coburg location, or we have it virtual as well. So wherever we can, we don't really focus, we're not really Coburg centric. We look at like Northumberland as a whole when we're looking at program and services. But with Coburg, I guess the Coburg Council, we didn't approach them because we're not paying any, rents or leases or anything through them. Now, again, I think the other consideration is more than half of our business is children's services, which is the licensed childcare. So where we can, we offer 19 programs throughout the county. Through this new rent assistance program, we'll be looking at applying for any rental abatement for the schools, because the schools currently charge us for rent. So we don't target any specific, it's more based on program and then what's the cost of those programs and how can we come at it holistically as well.
Another question?
Just a quick follow-up, probably more for you, Mayor. Since you focus on Northumberland as a whole, is that something that they could approach Northumberland County Council on?
Anybody could approach any municipality, and
Yeah.
that's the simple reality. And the easy answer is yes, of course they could approach a county council.
And I think if there's an opportunity for a grant through Northumberland County, we'd certainly look at it. Yeah.
But in terms of approaching Brighton, you did so as your landlord,
A landlord.
not
yeah.
as necessarily a municipal government or a level of government.
Yes, that's right. It was more for a rent abatement.
Right.
Because we were closed, we went from the annual revenue to zero overnight. So we had to look at our overall costs. So we take each budget within our portfolio and how can we sort of shave down those costs with no revenue coming in? Because we don't rely on government funding unless it's through one of our programs. So licensed childcare, we receive it through parent subsidy. We receive a wage subsidy, but that's associated with the Ministry of Children's Services specifically for childcare. So it was really, what can we do to save costs at each centre? Crammy Township, we run a camp there. They didn't run it this year, so we had no reason to go to Crammy and ask for that assistance. But we did get the Northumberland United Way grant, which covers assistance for membership throughout the county, which really covers Brighton, anywhere, Trent Hills, any of the communities throughout the county. Yeah.
Any further questions for clarification? Councillor Anderson.
Just to follow it down the line of provincial funding.
Yeah.
I'm sort of, have you had any real success with that? You say you don't apply for provincial funding, or you?
The federal, it was the two programs that we were eligible for was the federal funding. So that was the wage subsidy and the previous rent subsidy, which we were not eligible because it was a municipality that had to, because we were a tenant, we couldn't apply. But they're going to change that ruling and have it eligible for non-for-profits. But we have been successful with the wage subsidy. And I will say it's what's kept us going over the last several months. Yeah. But provincial, other than infrastructure funding, we did apply for infrastructure funding last year for a new facility in Coburg, and we weren't successful in that bid. But so anything that comes to our door, we do apply for if we look for eligibility. But
anyway, I commend you for bringing the numbers up. You're getting close to the happy break-even point, and hopefully the success and the word of mouth out there. It sounds like you're running a great operation.
mm-hmm.
I think safety was the big issue. Still is, I'm sure, but you keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully it'll come your way.
Well, it took a while to gain the trust and confidence of the community. And I think with everything, it's certainly been challenging, but with everything we have done, I think we're slowly gaining that trust. And again, we're fortunate with the numbers in Northumberland County, the COVID numbers, which is supportive of us being able to do this. But if we can keep going and moving in that direction and get back to where we were, and then hopefully we can start these talks about expansion and what's the future of recreation. We have been 17 years in the community now, and we'd like to feel we can be here a lot longer. Yeah.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. On a positive note, I know that other years that you provide a really good service for the young adults from Sunny Days. Is that still going on?
That hasn't, I don't believe that has restarted for this session, but it's certainly something we would work with if the group is ready to come back.
And there's another group in Brighton, Beacon, they're younger children in later public school and early high school years. Would there be any way that you could provide a service for them?
We certainly could. One restriction we have right now is anybody outside of the county, and this is a temporary restriction through COVID. We're not allowing access to like the Brighton and Coburg, so if they live outside the county, just for tracking. But if it's a group within the county, we can certainly work.
They definitely go to Brighton schools, so they're within Northumberland. Yeah.
And just, I should also mention, we do offer the before and after school service at Spring Valley and Smithfield. Smithfield, we didn't get the recall numbers to start the program in September, but so we're looking at it every quarter. Just parents were not comfortable, but Spring Valley is still going strong. So once we get the numbers to where we need to have them, then we'll definitely be looking at Smithfield again. So.
Thank you.
Go ahead. And is the early years still at?
Yes, it's at the high school.
It's at the high school,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the early on, yeah.
Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, just one last follow-up so I can keep my notes up to date. The task force that you both spoke about, is that still going to be based on the resolution from July of 2018, or is the composition of that proposed to change? Or
I think it'll be an amalgam of different things, including the YMCA strategic planning, our strategic planning, and what was discussed back in 2018. I think that's the intent. I mean, it's just an opportunity to help move recreation in Brighton forward with partners.
Yeah.
Right. Councillor LeBlanc.
You merit the honor. I have two questions. One, you mentioned that you were going to start the 6 o'clock program, AM. You know when that's going to start?
I don't have the official date, but I know it's within the next week. They're moving the time from 6:30 to 6 as an opening. So we're just going to open a half hour early for people who are commuting to work, and we can gain a few more members. But I can certainly follow up with you on that. Yeah.
No problem. Once
You'll
I start, I'll be a member.
Okay, good.
Here she's in. I
That's
gotta
great.
get healthy again. The second question I have could possibly be answered by you, by Mrs. Linda Whitfield. When you mentioned you skimmed over that there was a rent rebate that the municipality could apply for?
So no, the rent program through the federal government municipalities couldn't apply for.
Or couldn't?
Couldn't, no,
Okay.
sorry. And it was, the acronym was CSRA, but now it's CSRS. So this new program, we understand that non-for-profits, whether you're a tenant or apply for, we can, as a tenant, a non-for-profit tenant
Okay.
within the facility.
Does
Yeah.
the municipality participate with you in that application?
They may have to. We don't know the details. It was just announced, I think, a week or so ago. So they're working through the criteria and details. But if we do have to, which I think then, because Mayor and Council has agreed for the rent abatement till the end of December for our current situation. But if we can apply for this rent subsidy, then I think we renegotiate that, because we're not going to double dip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Rowley, did I see your hand?
Just a question, mostly for Linda Whitfield. I'm sure it's in my budget book, Linda, but could you just, would you have the total amount that we do support the Y with, as far as I know, there's, it's not just the rent abatement, right? We also kind of give back a significant amount annually. I don't need it now. If you can't find it, Linda, that's okay. I would appreciate it in an email maybe tomorrow.
Ms. Whitfield?
So we do provide the YMCA with the subsidy of $30,000 a year.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow, but that doesn't include the rent abatement.
No.
No, okay.
The rent abatement is equivalent to 25% of the residual amount that we're paying.
And I can't see the deputy mayor on the screen. So Deputy Mayor, I'm giving you an opportunity to ask a question if you have any. And I think that's good. So I have a motion. Sorry, I can see you now if you have a question. I know there's a delay too.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're frozen on my screen, but we can hear you.
Okay. Thanks. I'm just wondering, as far as moving forward, the rent abatement, you're saying you're hoping to apply for the new one that the government put out. What are the dates for that? What's the time frame that they've introduced this new one for? I'm just curious.
I think I can translate, and I think it was looking for a timeline on the rent abatement program and when you could apply for the new federal program.
I would say we should probably know within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So we can apply, but whether we're eligible or not, it might be about a 6-week turnaround, just based on some of the other programs we've applied for.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor, if that wasn't what you were asking, now's your chance to try again. Yeah. Laura, we have a very bad connection with you, unfortunately. I'm gonna move on. With a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that the delegation from Eunice Kirkpatrick, YMCA, Northumberland, November 10th, 2020 be received.
Ask another question just quickly,
Sure.
as we talked about the rent abatement. Is so applying for funding, is that then retroactive, or is that moving into the year of 2021?
My understanding is the rent program is retroactive to September 27th. This new one, yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you very much, Eunice. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And our second delegation is from Rhonda Bateman with the Lower Trent Conservation Authority, and she's joining us by Zoom. So cross your fingers, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Ostrander. Just going to get ready for my share screen here. See if that works. Oh, there we go. Can you see that? Okay. Can you hear me, or is there a large delay?
We can hear you. I'm not sure if there's a delay or not.
Oh, well, as long as you can hear me.
There you go.
So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here a week early. That it actually suits your conversation about budget. So good evening, Mayor Ostrander and councillors. I'd like to outline Lower Trent's 2021 business plan, budget, and levy this evening. I'm going to start with a little background for reference. That Lower Trent Conservation Authority was established in 1968 under the Conservation Authorities Act. The purpose of the Act is to provide for the organization and delivery of programs and services that further the conservation, restoration, development, and management of natural resources in watersheds of Ontario. Our strategic plan was adopted in 2018. The vision and mission statements are included here: healthy watersheds for healthy communities, and to protect land, water, and living things by working with and inspiring others. The mission statement recognizes the importance of partnerships across the watershed with municipalities, local business, local landowners, and residents. So the CA Act is the overall legislation for Conservation Authorities' operation and governance. Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act determines the regulations of development activities in environmentally sensitive areas, such as wetlands, shorelines, and watercourses. And Regulation 116 is the outline for the management of our conservation area lands. Just as a reminder, Lower Trent Conservation owns and operates 10 conservation authority areas, and 7 natural habitat areas. These are the current programs being carried out at Lower Trent Conservation. Many of the programs listed are required under legislation and are delivered in partnership with our municipalities, such as planning and regulations, flood forecasting and warning and flood management, source water protection, and conservation lands. The other programs and services are focused on local needs as determined through you, our partner municipalities, and our board members. Some are funded through municipal agreements or agreements with other agencies and businesses. For example, the Bay of Quinte Remedial Action Plan is funded through federal and provincial governments. Other programs, such as our children's environmental education and community outreach programs, are fully funded through donations and grants. So the watershed is home to many beautiful spaces, and we are always hoping to share our knowledge and partnering with others, including local First Nations, to help us to share these natural systems with children and adults alike. So this time last year, I was standing before you discussing the proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act and our development regulations. Since that time, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks have met with each Conservation Authority senior staff and board chairs and vice chairs to discuss programs, processes, and governance. Following that, there were 4 public consultation sessions held. One was in Colborne in February, which was well attended by all of our board members and many local municipality representatives, including mayors and staff members. There were local landowners, there were Ontario Federation of Agriculture representatives, environmental representatives, and Ontario Landowner Association representatives. So this is where my standard presentation is going to change slightly. As of last Thursday, the province introduced their proposed changes into the fall budget bill, Bill 229. So there was a schedule associated with that, so outlining the new proposed changes. We are evaluating these proposed changes as they go deeper into operational practices than anyone anticipated. Many of the changes are dependent on the development of associated regulations, which we are told are to be coming out this fall and winter. I'll be bringing the details to our board at their Thursday meeting, and the board will provide further direction on next steps. Once we have a good handle on these changes, we'll be bringing the information back to council for consideration. There will be a transition period for most of the changes, before most of the changes are enacted, due to including the identification of mandatory programs and the agreements with the municipalities. All that is moving forward, and we don't expect, well, it's not to affect our budgeting for 2021. So I'm going to go forward with our 2021 budget and I'll outline it shortly. So our annual business plan outlines our existing strategic plan elements, details our current program activities, and identifies new work plan targets that are over and above annual work plans. These targets are directly related to identified items in the strategic plan and are considered in many cases to be special projects. For example, we've identified some updates required for specific features in our GIS mapping, which will result in creating better layers for our regulation staff in considering permit applications. The budget is included in the business plan to illustrate the expenditures and revenues associated with delivering our programs. In the past, Lower Trent Conservation would determine their budget based on an annual review of revenue and expenditures and capital needs. Those capital needs would vary from year to year and did not look at a long-term strategy. The process was more of a quick review of what was broken, what needed fixing immediately, as opposed to setting out a schedule for repair and maintenance. This process resulted in inconsistencies in budgeting and annual levy requests varying greatly from year to year. The Lower Trent Conservation Board approved our asset management plan in July of this year. Lower Trent has a large pool of assets with buildings, vehicles, equipment, and land holdings. We recognize that capital asset plans are not a new concept for municipalities. Lower Trent is over 50 years old, and some of the assets that we have procured over the years are well older than that. A capital asset management plan is an essential part of our business as it guides the purchase, use, maintenance, and disposal of major assets that we need to conduct business. The plan will allow us to stabilize the annual budgeting process into two distinct budgets, operations and assets. The asset plan was shared with all of the municipal CAOs in September during our initial discussions regarding our budget projections. So overall, the annual rate for our capital asset management plan is $98,000. The board has directed that 50% of the actual capital asset budget, or $49,000, be brought forward to the 2021 budget process. The remaining $49,000, or 50%, will be brought forward for 2022. So let's have a look at our revenues. As illustrated, the majority of our funding, 52% of it, is from our municipal partners through the levy. The rest of the funding is from regulatory fees, provincial and government partnerships, agreements, donations, and grants. The largest funding source outside of the municipal levy and overall government funding are the fees for service and other revenue generated through our programs. Our expenditures I have broken out by 3 sections. The watershed science and service section has the most staff and the widest variety of programs. They are, as I said before, they are also our largest source of revenue generation outside of the levy. Conservation lands is our smallest expenditure line, but most of the asset management requirements fall under conservation lands. We still do not charge a fee for access to our properties, although we do request donations. Corporate services works for all program areas, and expenses are generally staff and supplies used corporate-wide. So for the operations budget, we are planning on using surplus funds from prior years in an attempt to keep the levy increase below 2%. The levy increase for operations using that surplus money is 1.45%. So the levy apportionment for our municipal partners is provided to us by the provincial government. The apportionment indicates the percentage of the total levy that is applicable to each municipality and is based on population within the watershed and the current value assessment for each municipality. Brighton's levy apportionment is 15.94%, very similar to last year's. So the actual increase in the operation levy for Brighton is 1.87%, or $2,984. The share of the capital levy for Brighton is $7,821. So this chart illustrates the total municipal levy for all of our partner municipalities. So the total increase levy for Brighton is $10,805 or 6.65%. So that includes the operations increase of $2,984 and the capital increase of $7,821. I'll leave that up there for a minute because everyone likes to look at what everybody else pays. All right, so we are always looking at ways to improve our relationships with our municipal partners. We have seen great improvements in several of the working relationships with Brighton staff. My goal is to develop an even better working relationship between Lower Trent staff and Brighton staff in common departments such as Public Works, Planning, and Building. We do share the common goals of furthering the health and well-being of our watershed residents. Thank you very much. And I'll stop sharing my screen. There we go.
I'm not sure if you're done or not, Rhonda, but the
Yes,
screen is
sorry.
telling me you are. So I am going to open the floor to members of council for any questions of clarification, keeping in mind we had some technical glitches along the way there. So Councillor Bateman.
Not a question. I was just going to say, I'm starting to miss dial-up.
Right? I don't know if you can hear me, Rhonda, but we didn't get all of your presentation because of, I think, probably our connectivity here. I'm not 100% sure, though, or maybe a combination of both. It's hard to say. Any other questions or any other comments from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
Good evening, Rhonda. Could you let the council and the people here tonight know that you really had to struggle with this budget because the province cut the funding? Is that correct? To basically half of what we got other years, and that wasn't raised for, what was it, 20-something years before that?
Yes, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Tadman. We received the cutback in 2019, and we've strived very hard not to bring that $64,000 deficit back to our municipal partners, and we have succeeded in that. Our increase last year was operations only, and this year we've tried to keep our operations as low as possible, with knowing the concerns and issues everyone's having with COVID. So we have struggled. We recognize the importance of some of the things that we had to cancel last year due to the cutbacks. So we've managed to incorporate some of our program areas that we had to cut last year with the recognition that we could meet those needs with surplus funds for this year only. So that 64,000 that was taken away is still not present in our budget. I seem to have lost sound. Uh-oh. I don't see counseling.
I don't see anyone either.
Uh-oh. Hello, Deputy Mayor.
Great presentation. I could hear you loud and clear.
Thank
So, obviously,
Oh, dear.
we're not the ones with the connectivity issues. It's down there,
No.
I think. So
I think not. Oh
we'll
dear.
see what happens. I'm going to just send a few texts and see what's happening.
Okay.